Hey, hi, Peter. I'm Kami. I write for the momanddiaries.com. It's so nice to meet you.
Thanks. Nice to meet you.
So I have to start off with, I was looking at like your profile and I didn't realize you illustrated one of my son's favorite book series, the Creepy series.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how many times I've read Creepy Pair of Underwear.
Oh
I
my gosh. I'm so
know.
sorry. Yeah, I know those books, but yeah, that's
Funny.
good. I'm glad. I'm glad. I'm glad.
Yeah. So I'd like to start. I'd like to know what was your inspiration behind writing The Wild Robot?
My inspiration was kind of stemmed from my love of science and technology and nature. I grew up watching like David Attenborough specials on TV about the African savanna and jungles and all sorts of exotic animals and places. Um, and anyway, but I'm an author and an illustrator now. So one day I spent a lot of time drawing in my sketchbook stuff like jungle scenes and forests and animals. And one day I drew a picture of a robot in a tree. And I don't know exactly why I drew that, except that I love those subjects. But I put them together in this drawing of a robot in a tree, and I just couldn't stop thinking about this character, this robot who didn't have a name at the time, um, but that turned into Roz, the robot. And so I just started thinking about robots and researching robotics and artificial intelligence and reading about animal behavior and ecology. And um, I was learning so much interesting stuff about these various subjects that I realized I had sort of the ingredients for a story about a robot who learns to survive in the wilderness and ends up becoming almost more natural and wild than a person could by kind of mimicking the animals that she sees in the wilderness, and then ends up learning to communicate with them, and then develops relationships, friends and family with them. And so this little story about a robot in the wilderness ended up having some very relatable themes, as we watch this robot become a parent and struggle with parenthood, and watch her son struggle with having a robot for a mom, because sort of a strange mom right out there. And like, it seems fantastical and like science fiction, but I wanted it to have this sense of authenticity and believability and relatability. And so I worked really hard to create scenes and characters that readers of different ages could really kind of connect to. So yeah, that's kind of how the story came to be.
So, speaking of the characters, as a mom, I really, really love the relationship between Roz and Bright Bill. Can you kind of talk about like developing that bond between them, that parent
Yeah.
connection?
Well, my love of science is what's sort of at the heart of it, because I could have chosen any animal, right? The idea is Roz becomes a mom of an animal, an orphaned animal out in the woods, in the wilderness. What animal are you going to choose? Well, I chose a goose in particular because geese have instincts, animal instincts. One of them is called imprinting. They'll imprint on whoever's taking care of them and follow them around, almost like that person is their parent. And I thought if a goose could imprint on a person, which is what happens with scientists who study birds, why couldn't a goose imprint on a robot who's like a little bit like a person? And so I started from this place of using real science to justify this relationship. This gosling follows this robot around, and this robot decides that she can't abandon him and she's got to sort of help him out and take care of him. And so their relationship doesn't necessarily start off like a mother-son relationship, but it evolves into that. Um, and then this geese have another instinct, which is that they fly south for winter. And so I thought, well, how moving and how painful or heartbreaking will it be to watch a mom and a son have to part ways, and for they don't know how long, assuming he'll come back safely, but you don't know. The wilderness is a tough place. And so I imagine the scene of Roz having to let her son follow his natural instincts, knowing that that is the right thing to do, but also feeling a sense of loss as she watches her son fly south, fly away from the island without her. I just thought there's so much like juicy stuff in there. There's so much relatable stuff, and like for parents, for kids, for grandparents. I thought I was just so excited to have that relationship be the center of the book. And then obviously in the movie they carry that through and focused on it. And so you get to see a lot of those scenes kind of come to life in animation, and such beautiful animation that it's I feel really lucky.
Yeah. How involved were you with the collaboration process of turning your book into the movie?
Well, I was never in the studio. I live on the East Coast, and DreamWorks is based in Los Angeles, and so plus there was the whole COVID pandemic. Things were complicated, so we just got in the habit of having Zoom calls. Me and Chris Sanders and Jeff Herman, the producer, So we had a lot of Zoom calls. It takes years to make an animated film, and we had a meeting every couple of months, you know. So they added up over time. And they in the beginning they were picking my brain, asking about the research that went into the books and about why I made certain decisions and developed certain characters. And then over the course of our meetings, they started changing over time, of course, and eventually it became more about them showing me what they and their team were working on, character designs and background art. And then eventually they started showing me unfinished versions of the film, and getting my feedback, you know, like they'd ask me what I thought about different scenes. And you know, I won't say that every note I gave them was used, but I think they wanted to understand how I saw things and how I thought about things. And so a lot of our conversations, I think, were really productive and did help them kind of unlock the story that they came up with, the version of the story that they came up with.
So what was it like for you the first time you saw the wild robot on the big screen?
Well, it was really overwhelming, actually. The first time I saw the finished movie was at the world premiere of the movie at the Toronto International Film Festival. And I just walked the red carpet with, you know, Mark Hamill and Lupita Nyong'o and Catherine O'Hara and some of my heroes, plus Chris Sanders and the team. I got to meet a lot of the creative leads from DreamWorks who I'd never met before. And then we all end up in this movie theater together, this big theater, and we sit down. I'm sitting down, like there's Mark Hamill and there's Chris Sanders and there's Lupita Nyong'o. And I'm like, what am I doing here? You know? Uh, so I actually, when I watched the movie, I had a hard time concentrating on it because I was just so buzzing from all the excitement of the whole experience. But it was special to watch the movie. When I could concentrate on the movie, I was moved to tears like everybody else. So there we are sitting in this theater filled with people who are all sniffling and crying at different moments in the story. And uh, it was a lot. It was amazing, but I feel like I'm still kind of processing what happened. And that was a couple of months ago. So uh, yeah, it was
It was like
great.
a great experience.
Yeah.
So as the author, what would you like for audiences to take away after they watch the film?
Well, I mean, I think the big themes from the movie are the same themes from the book, right? Themes of kindness, how kindness can help you survive, about
Hmm.
the way we rely on each other, and you know, we're part of a community, whether you like it or not. We're part of the society and this community, and we need each other, and we don't have to agree on everything. There's scenes in the movie of these animals who are usually hunting each other, but they decide that they have to work together at certain moments. They have to kind of overcome their maybe natural instincts to attack each other or run from each other. They have to overpower that programming that you might call it, to for the greater good. So those are some of the themes that are key to the book and key to the movie. Of course, I also would hope I'd love it if people would go read the book if they haven't already. There's 3 books in the Wild Robot series. I'm really proud of them. And if you want more Wild Robot experience, you know, there's books out there waiting to be read.
So I homeschool my youngest son, and I was planning on actually doing that with him. That's kind of, I think it's
Great.
emotional as well, and relatable, like you said.
Yeah.
So like you did just say that there's more books that you have written. Can you
Mhm.
tell me if there's any more movies for the Wild Robot?
Well, there's certainly talk. Yeah, it's not official yet, but I know Chris Sanders and Jeff Herman and a lot of the top artists and animators who worked on the movie are really hoping to get the second one in the pipeline, because I know people are really excited about it. The artists who I spoke to who worked on the movie loved working on it. You know, a lot of them said this was the highlight of their career. And I think it was really satisfying for them to work on a movie that has so much heart and soul, but is also visually stunning and exciting. You know, it checks every box, really. Uh, and the people who worked on it, they want to live in that world for longer. So I'm pretty optimistic that it'll get made eventually. But we'll just keep our fingers crossed for right now. It's not official yet, but I think there's a good chance we'll get a sequel.
That's so great. It was such a huge success, the first film. So I'm hopeful that they'll make more.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. It was so nice meeting you and talking with you today.
Thanks, you too. This was fun.
Thanks.